Hello and welcome to The Right Mama with Jennifer Aline, a creative space where we talk about the writing process, the publishing industry, and motherhood chaos. Today's video talks about some vocabulary and phrases and words that you may have heard come up in my videos, maybe some other videos on other authortubers channels, maybe at conferences, workshops, and blogs, whatever. You may have heard some of these phrases and thought, what the heck does that mean? I know early on and even recently, I've heard lots of phrases and vocabulary when it comes to the writerly world that I'm not always sure I fully understand. You can still be a writer and write beautiful work and novels and prose and poetry and not understand every dynamic there is out there in the world when it comes to creating something that's writing related. And that's okay. But today we're going to go over 10 phrases, vocabulary, pieces of writerly knowledge that may help you out moving forward. Number 1 is genre. Even though a lot of people know what genre is or what your genre is that you write for, not everybody may be fully sure what it means. When we're talking about genre, it means you're writing for a specific audience. The genre is the audience or the reader that is hooked and interested in your work. For example, I write mostly women's fiction and young adult. That's the genre that I stick to. However, most people for an overarching genre, if you think of it as an umbrella, think they write in either commercial fiction or upmarket fiction or literary fiction if you're a fiction writer. If you want to go in an umbrella above that, there's fiction and nonfiction. So there's kind of a lot of umbrellas and tiers when it comes to genre, but really I think the most important thing is when it comes to this word and this phrase is that the genre is the audience you're writing for. Number 2 is plot. Really, plot is just your storyline. It's how your story is written. A lot of people have certain kinds of plots that they write, and that's a whole other video. But plot is really just your storyline and how your story flows, how the characters flow through your story. The different dynamics that go into plot can be a whole other video. There's different kinds of plots, but really, when you think of the word plot, just think of, your storyline, how your story is being written. Number 3 is the word trope. This is a word that honestly I didn't even know was in my writerly dictionary until recently, and I will give Jenna Moreci, another authortuber, full credit for opening my eyes to this word in this world of tropes. I knew what the definition of trope was, but I didn't know that there was a name connected to it. So to kind of give you a simplistic definition of what a trope is, it is kind of a comfortable and liked cliche. It's something that is used often in many and most stories. For example, the boy next door. That's a trope that a lot of people actually like. It's overused, but it's liked. It's not so cliche that it's annoying. Some people might think that, but a trope is a liked and overused cliche that people are comfortable with and sometimes purposely go find stories that have those tropes in it. For example, good versus evil. That's a trope that is honestly never going to get old. Another trope is, let's see what else I wrote. I know. Enemies to lovers. That's a huge one when it comes to romance novels. A lot of people like enemies to lovers books. A trope is a comfortable, overused cliche that people are drawn to when it comes to their stories. Number 4 is the 3-act story structure. Now, this is kind of a way that people outline their stories, and it's a very popular, well-known way of kind of collecting your thoughts into 3 major parts of your story. So you may have heard people talk that in their AuthorTube channels that they follow the 3-act story structure, and you may wonder what the heck that is. Well, we're just going to quickly kind of go over those parts right now. Part 1 of the 3-act story structure is the inciting incident. In the first part, more the introduction of your story, there's got to be something that draws your reader in, something that makes them wonder and makes them curious about what's going to happen. 2 is rising action. What happens after that inciting incident that makes the story really keep moving? There's got to be conflict. There's got to be some drama. There's sometimes a bunch of fun little subplots. The inciting incident is the part of the structure that keeps the book going. 3 is resolution. After the movement of the plot goes and it hits the climax of the story, the resolution is sometimes the happy-ish ending, not always happy, but something that kind of calms the chaos down a little bit. So those are the 3 parts of the 3-act story structure. 5 is beta readers. This is a phrase that I honestly wasn't too sure of till a few years ago at the 2016 Writers Conference, when I think the phrase beta readers kind of became more relevant and known within the last few years, because those especially who are indie authors or those who self-publish need as much support as they can when it comes to getting their story as clean and crisp and professional as they can. So a lot of people will look for beta readers. Beta readers are people who just like to read books and want to give feedback. You don't pay beta readers. You can find these people on Twitter. You can use the hashtag beta readers. If you have a really big platform on authortube, we're able to do that. You can look on, other social media platforms. There's a lot of ways to find beta readers, especially since the booktube community is big as well. A lot of the booktubers like to have their hands on an ARC, or an advanced reader's copy. I should have put that on this list. An ARC is an advanced reader's copy. And they get to read those books early before they come out and give you feedback as a reader. That's it. They don't have to critique. They don't have to go through and edit. They're just reading the book and letting you know what they think. Number 6 is critique partner. Again, this is one that I think has gotten a name to it in the last few years, at least in my world it has. And a critique partner is often another author, another person in the field that has a good amount of knowledge and experience when it comes to writing or English. And this is somebody who will go through your book, maybe give you some helpful feedback, let you know kind of if there's plot holes or if something sounded weird. They can go through and edit. They can make comments. They give you a lot of writerly feedback, some good editorial support for you. Beta readers just read. Critique partners, it's often nice if you have some friends who are writers that you've met through social media to be able to kind of switch your books up together and trust each other. So number 7 is literary agent. Now, a lot of people probably have heard of literary agents if you're somebody who is interested in getting your book traditionally published. A literary agent is a professional in the field who reads the letters that come in, which we'll talk about in a second, decides to pick your story up and support you and help you along the traditional publishing process. They're kind of your mentor, your professional guide as you find a big name publisher, if that's your choice of finding a publisher. They're there to make sure your book is being sold the right way, that you're working through the contract correctly, that there's not any issues in your story, any other holes that the editors or critique partners missed. They're there to fully support you, especially emotionally too, because it can be quite the emotional roller coaster when you're trying to get your book published in any way. So a literary agent is somebody that many big name publishing houses will not take manuscripts from somebody who does not have a literary agent. So usually the first step after you really clean up your manuscript is to send a query letter to your literary agent. And number 8 is query letter. So a query letter is a cover letter that is usually only one page, maybe a few paragraphs, that is what you send to the literary agent. Before you write that up, you want to make sure you research all the literary agents in your genre. You don't want to send this letter to someone who takes middle grade fantasy when you're writing women's fiction. They will not even look at your query letter. So you want to make sure that you write a one-page, very strategically written professional query letter that talks about the main points of your story, that draws in the literary agent, but also talks about you. What makes you different from everybody else when it comes to the writerly world? What makes you a professional in this content, especially if the content does have like mental health or some dynamics in it that they may want to know why this is such a big deal to you, why you should be the one telling the story. So the query letter really is that one-page cover letter that you send to the literary agents, hoping to really drag them into your story to get them interested, to scoop you up. Number 9. I'm not good with numbers, so I think we're on number 9. Number 9 is traditional publishing. You've already heard me talk a little bit about traditional publishing. And when I say traditional publishing, it means that your book has been scooped up by one of the top 5 publishing houses. I'm not sure if I can really name all those right now. Let's find out. We have Macmillan, Penguin, Simon & Schuster, Random House. Oh no, I'll write them down here. I thought I had it. But traditional publishing is when you get your literary agent, that agent helps you submit your book to these big publishing houses, the big names that are out there, or some of the smaller ones as well. And traditional publishing is when you work with this crew, this huge group of industry professionals to really get your book ready. They're the ones who are able to get your book on shelves worldwide. They can get your story on audiobooks. They can do this, they can do that, get you foreign rights, work with this contract. Traditional publishing is usually when they give you an advance up front for your story once it's sold to a big publishing house. That usually means that you will not really get money from your book until that advance is paid off. That's kind of what that is. But that's traditional publishing. You have that support from a really big team usually, or in my case, I'm with a small press, but it's a traditional publishing house, and it's a smaller team. But traditional publishing, you have the support. You're also going to be splitting up the revenue that you make from your book with all of those people that are on your team. So that's traditional publishing. And I will put a link below to one of my videos that talks a little bit more about that. And number 10. I know this is number 10 because it's the last one I have. And this is indie publishing, also known as self-publishing. It can get a little bit confusing because some small presses also see themselves as independent publishers because they're separate from those big 5 or the top huge publishers. They want to be seen as smaller and more, unique. So we're going to focus on indie publishing as self-publishing. And this is when the author does everything. They have full creative control of their entire story. They don't have a huge team backing them up. They get money from that first book sold, but they have to put some money out there up front for editors, for cover art, for marketing, for things like that. So indie publishing or self-publishing is when they have full creative control of their book baby. There you have it. That was just about 10 phrases, vocabulary words that are used quite often when it comes to publishing, writing, writerly craziness that you may have heard before and not been totally sure exactly what they were. So as my girls wake up from their nap, I will say thank you for listening. If you liked this kind of content and maybe you want some more vocabulary thrown into a video, ring the bell, subscribe below, and we will do our best to make that video happen. So, as my girls climb up the stairs, stay creative and drink that coffee. This is my Ariel Mama mug, because I do Ariel when I have a few seconds of free time. Stay creative.